Hey everyone, it's Stephanie here, and today I have a video sharing my March paper doll layout. This month I decided to use a TV quote instead of a movie quote. If you follow along with this series that I started in January, you know that I've been doing all my pages kind of based on movie or TV quotes. This is the first TV one that I've done. And for this one here, I decided to do my quote based off of the TV show Glee because I am admittedly a Glee fan and the series ended this month, so I wanted to kind of pay tribute to that and do my page based on the TV show. And I decided to use the character Finn as my character on my page. So what I did here is I just got one of my boy stamps, and I'm using the Aiden paper doll stamp. I just kind of thought he'd look closest to the character from the TV show. And I'm going to go ahead and ink him up with my Memento Tuxedo Black ink and stamp him onto a piece of text paper. This is just an Echo Park piece that I kind of keep for just specifically for my paper dolls. You can use any kind of text paper, or you can use any other type of paper. You don't even have to use text paper. It just adds a little bit of detail to their skin and their faces since they don't actually have a face. And then once I have him on there, I'm going to go ahead and do his clothes. So I have this great pattern paper here from American Crafts, and it looks just like jean material. And I wanted to mimic the kind of uniform that they wore in the show. For the New Directions Glee Club, they always wore jeans and red shirts. That was kind of their signature uniform when the club first started, so I was trying to kind of stay true to the show. And I did stamp it on a piece of dotted pattern paper there, but I decided not to use that, so you'll see later that I don't end up using that, and I just use all solid reds. So now that I have the clothes pieces stamped, I'm going to go ahead and color his skin. There isn't a whole lot here to color. It's just a tiny piece of his hands and then his face. And I'm just using some beige and skin color Copic markers to do his skin. And just kind of doing the lighter colors first and then adding some dark shading around his hairline. And then just around the areas on his neck. And then once I'm done with the skin color, I'm going to go ahead and also color his hair with some brown Copic markers. Now, typically this is just pattern paper, so it's not really meant for Copic coloring, but I never have any kind of problems when I'm using my Copics on this paper. It seems to blend really well, and I have no issues coloring on it, so it should be fine. And I mean, you can use pencil crayons, you can use anything that you want to color these. You could actually even paper piece his hair right onto his head if you wanted just to stamp it onto brown or black or whatever color paper you want to mimic the hair. So there's lots of different ways you can achieve the same look. But I like to color it, just it gives a little bit of dimension, and I like the shading you can get with the Copic markers. So now I have him all colored, all the parts that are going to be visible are colored, and I'm going to go ahead and start to cut out his clothes. So I'm just going to use my scissors and cut out the different pieces, and I also ended up stamping his shoes onto a piece of brown paper. I forgot when I was stamping all of the pieces of him to do his shoes, so I did those off camera as well. And now that I have all the pieces cut out, I'm just going to go ahead and adhere them all onto him. I like to do this directly onto the paper when he's still intact, and then once I have all of his clothes on, I'll go ahead and fully cut him out with my scissors. So you can see there, like I said, I have the shoes that I had cut from a piece of brown paper, and I added those on, and I'm going to go ahead and put his shirt on. So you can see here now, like I mentioned earlier, I ended up not using that polka dotted pattern paper. I thought it would just be nice for a little bit of contrast with the type of shirt he's wearing, but when I layered it on top of each other, the polka dots really stood out, and I didn't really like how it looked, so I decided to just keep it with the exact same pattern paper, but I still layered the center area on top of the large area just to give it a little bit of added dimension and make it look like it was one shirt over top of another. And then to kind of make it look even more realistic, I'm just taking some gray Copic markers and adding some shading around the areas of his shirt where the creases and the folds are. And then I'm also going to do the same thing to his jeans. And since the jeans are kind of a darker blue color, it's not that easy to see like the lighter gray colors, which is what I typically use for shading. So I'm just going to use a little bit of a darker color and kind of go around his pocket area and add some detail, just to kind of look like it kind of gives the jeans dimension. So it kind of looks like the pockets are actually sticking out away from his jeans. So I just kind of like the way the shading makes everything look even more realistic. It makes it look more dimensional and not so flat looking. And then I'm also taking those same gray markers and adding some shading to his shoes, especially to the bottom area, so it looks like the soles of his shoes. And then I'm just kind of going around and adding any that I feel like the gray color of the Copic faded a bit, I just go ahead and layer on top of it until I get it to a way that I like and think the shading looks good. So now that I have all the shading done, I'm going to go ahead and cut him out. And I just take my time and just kind of slowly go around him. I use kind of large scissors, but I find I have the most control over these scissors. They're my favorite. So I still, even though I've tried using smaller ones, I always go back to my larger ones. I just think that I get the best cut with those ones. So now that I have all the pieces cut out, I'm going to go ahead and start to assemble. So you can see there I already have my drum set fully assembled. I cut that out with my silhouette, and I also cut out, I found an image online showing the drum set from the TV show, and I just kind of printed it out and kind of eyeballed it to get it roughly the same size as the drum set that I had already cut out with my silhouette, just so I could get that front part of the drum to make it look similar to the same drum set that Finn always played on the TV show. So I cut it out and then assembled the whole thing. I didn't have any red foil paper, which is what I wanted to use for the drum parts, but I thought I had some and didn't, so I ended up just using red sparkle paper. So they're a little bit more sparkly than they actually are for real, but I think it works okay, and it achieves the look that I was trying to go for. So now I'm just going to assemble the background pieces. I printed a quote that he said on the show directly onto my background, which is just a brick pattern paper. And then I also cut out a piece of flooring, which is just a wood pattern paper, and then decided I didn't like it after I adhered it. So I just went ahead and kind of easily pulled that off. And I'm going to use this more gray toned wood flooring as the bottom area instead. So I'm just going to go ahead and add adhesive and then just adhere that directly onto the bottom. This layout isn't overly detailed or anything. I pretty much kept the focus on the boy stamp as well as the drum set, and just because I just felt like the drum set with the sparkle paper and everything really added a lot of detail. And there wasn't a lot more I really wanted in the scene. I was just trying to mimic him in the kind of in the choir room, which is where a lot of the show took place. So I have a lot of fun with these scenes, kind of trying to create them so that they look similar to the show or the movie that I'm pulling them from. So I thought this worked really well to kind of have the brick wall and then the flooring and then the drum set with him standing with it. So I'm just going to go ahead now. I have the new floor adhered on there, and I also adhered a small thin strip of brown pattern paper just above it, just to kind of give it a little bit more separation from the wall. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere all the pieces of the drum with just regular adhesive, and then I'm just going to add some liquid to the legs and then the cymbal areas. Just because they're a lot smaller, it's hard to add the tape runner on there, but I definitely wanted to make sure that they were adhered down onto the layout. So now that I have all the adhesive on there, I'm just going to go ahead and position that where I want it, and then just kind of move him around until I have him where I want him, and then just adhere him directly beside the drum set with the same stamp runner. And then once I have that done, that's going to complete my March page. So I hope you enjoy this page. I hope you enjoy this series and are enjoying seeing the movies and TV quotes that I've been picking. Like I said, I'm really enjoying picking the different quotes from favorite movies and TV shows, and then using the paper dolls and other supplies to try and recreate the scenes. It's really fun, and I definitely encourage you to give it a try if it's something that interests you. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next month for my April page.